Hello and welcome to Popular Music and Media, MUS2085. I'm Adam Bear, I'm the module leader, and I'm here with my colleagues on the module who introduce themselves now.
Hi, I'm Richard Elliott. I'm lecturer in the music department.
Hi, I'm James Barker. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Music and Media.
Okay, I think what we're going to do now is we'll each introduce ourselves a little bit further, and then we're just going to go over some of the logistics of the module and a little bit about what we're going to cover before in the coming weeks we get stuck into the content. So I'm a senior lecturer in contemporary and popular music in the music department, funnily enough. And my research background is in popular music studies. I'm currently working on a project around music policy is a lot of my sort of main emphasis. So right now looking at things like the policy response to COVID-19. I've conducted censuses of live music across the country. But that also that's reflected a lot in my teaching in the department in my policy and politics module, but it also pertains to this module as well, because for things like copyright and of course music as a form of communication, so how music finds its way through other media as a communicative form, so film and television, for example. And for many years my research background has focused on popular music and popular music studies, the history of largely UK and US popular music. My PhD was on rock bands and how they form and how they work, and of course those are also entangled with the media environment. So that's my research background and how it fits into this module.
And to say a little bit about myself, so I'm also a lecturer in popular music, and I teach and research in various aspects of popular music, both Anglophone popular music, as in music from English-speaking countries, but also global music as well. And a lot of certainly the recent research I've been doing around global musics has involved me thinking a lot about the mediation of music, which is something we'll talk a lot about on this module. So how does music get to us? If for musicians, how do musicians get their music out to audiences? How are the various musical worlds connected in the times we live in, but also how have they been connected in past times as well? So one of the first things I'll be talking to you about on the module is recorded sound and sound formats, and we'll go back and we'll look at some early sound recording formats and think about the importance of sound recording technologies on the way we understand music. But we'll also be bringing that up to date and thinking about some 21st century sound formats and the implications for music making and the consumption of music as well through those technological changes. So a lot of the work I do involves thinking about how technology and media affects the way we get access to music, as well as the way that musicians make music. I'll just very briefly say something as well about this module in terms of how it fits into the curriculum and into both the music department and the media department and the School of Arts and Cultures more generally. When Adam and I put this module together originally, we were very much looking to try and harness work that was being done by both music students and researchers and staff, and media students, researchers and staff as well, and thinking about how a lot of the things that we're interested in these two departments overlap and affect each other as well. And I think that's probably a good time for James to say something, because James is also working between those two departments as well.
Yeah, so I'll just say a bit more about myself. So my PhD is looking at Dolly Parton and specifically around LGBT acceptance or inclusion within country music, which has a bit of a bad reputation when it comes to any sort of kind of diversity. But I think it's why I'm quite excited to sort of be sort of doing some teaching on this module and running some of the seminar groups is that it's also very much connects to some of these ideas of how music and media relate with one another. So Dolly Parton is a figure that everyone practically around the world recognizes and has been able to sort of, whether it's through Instagram or whether through Netflix, she's been able to sort of grapple with different audiovisual technologies to boost her brand. There's also country radio and country music as a genre and industry has been very much built on the way in which radio recording and these different technologies feed off each other and has created that genre today. So it's something that it's something that sort of very much connects to the research that I'm doing and still working on. And it's, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know some of you better.
Okay, so that's who we are. And now we're just going to cover what we'll be doing over the next academic year. And this session really is just an introduction and an overview of the module. So I'm just going to talk briefly about what we're going to cover here. Introducing the module, introducing ourselves, introducing the contents, what's going to be in the module handbook and on the Canvas site, what the lecture materials that you'll encounter online are going to be, some of what we will cover in the seminars, and there'll also be some important pointers on set readings, listening and viewing that you'll have to do as we proceed, and an initial briefing on the tasks for each seminar, and linked to that, the assessment of the module as a whole.
So I'll just say something about the module in terms of its aims and the kind of things it tries to cover. And this information is also available in the module handbook and the module outline form as well. So the module explores a relationship between popular music and media from a variety of critical and social historical perspectives, imposing questions about the ways in which music has been produced, consumed, curated, and mutated. The module sheds light on the ideological structures underpinning the mediation of music in the past and present. So we will look at things like the relationships between musical production and media technologies. We'll talk about microphones, phonographs, radios, and film, television, the MP3 format, how music interacts with social media, and so on. We'll think about the changing role and place of music in society as understood through an analysis of media technologies, and the meaning and nature of musical mediation and reception in society. We'll study the political economy of the music industry and the creative potential of media technologies for processes of musicking and remediation. So some of the things we'll talk about there include mixing, mashups, memes, and plunderphonics. We'll talk about the mediation of music in work and leisure activities, thinking, for example, about the use of music while we work and play, and music as a soundtrack to our everyday lives. And we'll look at case studies of key figures who have shaped our understanding of popular music and media, from musicians and producers to theorists and philosophers. So we've already introduced ourselves, and one person who's not in this video, but who will be involved in the module in semester 2 is Samiran Colbert, who is another PhD student also working in the music and media departments, who is going to be sharing some of his research with us on music and social media and the ways in which fans respond to musicians on social media. But this slide just gives you a sense of who is working on what. So we're all providing some lecture materials. We're all going to be involved in seminars, apart from Samiran. We will all be involved in assessment, whether that be the setting of assessment briefs or the marking of the work and the offering of feedback. And we'll say a little bit more about feedback later on as well, and what constitutes feedback, not only on this module, but also on the other modules you're studying. you will find the module handbook on the Canvas site, and the module handbook and the Canvas site contain a fair amount of the same material, but you will find it presented in slightly different ways. So for example, you might want to use the module handbook as a way of seeing at a quick glance a list of the sessions that we're going to be covering over semester 1 and semester 2, and also having a list of what you need to do for each week. So that's a sort of at a glance reference for the week by week running of the module. Whereas the Canvas site, we will be putting material up on a weekly basis, so you don't get to see it all at the start of the module. We'll also put details about the assessments in the module handbook and a breakdown of student activity, which basically means the hours that you should be spending on this module doing particular things. So when you look in the module handbook, you will see a table which shows you how many hours you should be engaging with lecture materials, for example, how many hours you should be engaging with seminars, how much independent study you should be doing, and that includes study for each week of the module, but also independent study towards your assessments as well. And we'll put a list of useful resources in the module handbook too. So the Canvas site will contain the module handbook itself, but will also contain information about us, how to contact us, where to go to for the seminars, links to the seminar, the Zoom links for the seminars. And we will place the lecture materials there, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, and also any materials that you need to look at to prepare for the seminar will be available on Canvas as well. We will place assessment briefs on Canvas. They will not be placed there at the start of the module. We will place the brief for semester 1 during semester 1, and we will place the brief for semester 2 assessments during semester 2. And hopefully this will help to avoid confusion as to what you should be doing when. Adam, did you want to say something about the lecture materials?
Yes, this is really just to sort of reinforce some of the information that you'll doubtless have received in emails from the university and on the ICMA's community site. And it's to note that in light of obviously the pandemic context, but appropriately enough for this module, given that it concerns mediation and different technologies, lecture materials will be presented. They'll all be available via Canvas in different ways. They'll involve things other than one of us in a room talking to you for 2 hours. So there will be analogues of that, sort of talking heads and slides, much like this presentation. But there will also be other materials like examples, musical examples, media examples, linked to the page for each session that you will need to engage with. And by and large, each topic will include an overview of that topic, some of the key concepts that pertain, case studies, musical and other media examples that support those, links outwards to other resources that might be useful, links to set readings, which we'll discuss a little further shortly, and also links to the task for that week, which is assessed, which you'll need to do in advance of the seminar. Now, obviously, the lecture materials are asynchronous. In other words, you don't need to log on at a particular time to encounter them, as you would have to if you had to turn up to a lecture room at a particular time. But you will need to engage with them, look at them, read them before the subsequent seminar for each week.
The seminars, by contrast, are live or synchronous, which means they are timetabled and they take place at a particular time. Therefore, you need to be available at that time in order to attend and participate in the seminar. So look on your timetable and you should find a time for the seminar that you are expected to go to. When you go to that seminar, you will be going to a Zoom link. Now, there will be a link for all the seminars for this module, and that will be a single link. So once you have that Zoom ID, you can use that ID to enter your seminar group. So there will be 3 seminar groups in total, but the group that you have will have an ID that you can enter in order to enter that Zoom room. So obviously it's important that you have the use of Zoom in order to participate in the seminar. So make sure on the day of the seminar, you've got a device that enables you to connect to the Zoom meeting in which that seminar is taking place. As Adam mentioned, there is preparatory work for you to do. So you will have needed to have done some set reading and possibly some listening or viewing tasks prior to the seminar. And in order to actively engage in the seminar, it's really necessary for you to have done that work. So during the seminar, you'll be showing how you've completed the weekly tasks that have been set for you. And you'll be showing that by engaging in discussion about that material. The seminars will vary, but typically we will look to try to get you working in pairs and small groups, as well as whole group discussions. This is in order to maximize the time that you can speak, but also because we know that sometimes people can feel a little bit nervous or unsure about talking in front of a larger group, whereas you might feel more comfortable to share ideas and try out questions and articulate your understanding of the set tasks when you're working with 1 or 2 other people. So as far as possible, we'll use a range of group sizes to enable discussion, but there will always be points in which we expect the whole group to be working together. We may ask you to present work in seminars, and if asked to do so, it's really important that you come prepared. There is some guidance available on the university website, which we will provide a link to, that tells you more about the etiquette for online learning events. So we're not going to go through that blow by blow here. However, one thing we would like to flag up is that we really would like you to have your cameras on whenever possible. In other words, our default expectation for seminars is that you will have the camera on when you're in the Zoom session. We do understand that there could be a variety of reasons why you may not be able to have a camera at certain points. However, it's really important for a successful discussion that people can see each other. So be aware that if you have your camera turned off, you are isolating yourself from the group, and you are also making other students feel isolated as well. So please, as long as it's possible for you to do so, have your camera engaged and be a visible and audible part of the conversation. A little bit more then on participation in seminars. So if you are asked to present or to lead a discussion in a seminar, try to concentrate on key points from any texts or case studies that you've been asked to prepare ahead of the seminar. And try to avoid blow-by-blow accounts of what the set reading text says. What I mean by that is, if you have been asked to talk about a particular text, don't spend 10 minutes going through everything that the author said. First they say this, then they said this, and then on the next page they said this. Not only can this be a little bit boring for people listening to you and time-consuming for you, but also it doesn't necessarily show that you've picked out the most important and interesting points. Also, if we've all done the text, the set reading, as we should have done, then we already know what the author has said and the order in which they've said things. So if you're asked to present, your job is really to get to the important and interesting points of that text or that case study, and to assume that everyone else is familiar with it. Now, often we'll be setting you musical examples or audiovisual examples for you to watch or listen to as part of lecture materials or as part of the weekly tasks. But we're also hoping that you are continuing to explore your understanding of music and media outside of the module. And there'll be lots of examples that you come across through your own leisure listening or through your own scholarship and research that you think would be relevant to the module and that you'd like to share with the rest of the class. So we do encourage you to do that. We may not always have time to play your musical examples or your media examples in class, but we'd very much like you to have thought about how what we're talking about applies to things you're interested in and be prepared to talk about that during our discussions. We'll often be making reference to videos in this module. And again, think about what you're talking about if you are presenting information about a video. Videos are much more than simple stories with beginnings and ends and a kind of narrative plot. So it's important that when you're thinking about videos and music, that you give equal time to the music and the sound as to the visuals or the lyrics of a song or the story of a film or what you happen to know about a particular artist. And what we really want to encourage you to do is think about these examples as packages that encompass all of those things. But in short, don't forget the music. You know, this is a music and media module, and we want to know how sound works with the predominantly visual media that we'll be studying. Say something about the set reading. The terminology that we're using here for set reading is the terminology used by the library, and there will be a library reading list available for this module. And the library categorizes readings as essential, recommended, and background. And if we have set a text as an essential text, that means that you must read this text, and you must do that in order to achieve the learning outcomes of the module. So you'll be expected to show a critical understanding of the essential reading during the module, that's in seminars and other discussions, and also in your end of semester assessments. So if you haven't read those essential texts, you won't be able to engage fully with the module and you won't be adequately prepared for the assessments. So if it's not clear already, it's really important that you do the essential reading. But in addition to essential reading, we also set what we call recommended and background reading as well. And these texts are set in order to allow you to increase your knowledge around a particular area, to explore particular areas in depth. And you should do that both for the weekly seminars using independent study time, but also and especially when preparing for assessments. When you come to write essays, we expect to see that you've engaged in a good range of recommended and background reading in addition to the essential texts that we've sent you.
I would just add there, around the background reading especially, that the difference between an essay that's sort of basically okay and an essay that's really good is one that goes beyond the compulsory essential readings and shows evidence of having engaged with the subject more independently and more substantively. So particularly when preparing your assignments, but also beforehand, if you can do the background reading, at least some of it as you go through, then by the time you come to start putting your assignments together, you'll be in a much stronger position to provide a really rich account of the topic.
Yeah, and what we're saying for the reading also goes for listening and viewing. And you'll be set quite a lot of examples of this during the course of the module, which if you think about the nature of popular music and media is probably not going to be surprising. For example, later in semester 1, you'll be doing a lot of work around music in films, music and television, and music and visual media more generally. And that means you'll need to watch a lot of things, which may not sound like an onerous task, but we will be setting you things to watch, and we will be expecting you to have watched those things. So if we designate a particular viewing, whether that's a film or a music video or a TV program or an advert, if we set that as essential listening or viewing, it really is that. We do expect you to have listened, watched, made notes before coming to a seminar to discuss that example. We won't have time in seminars to spend a lot of time showing clips, and it's our chance instead to be discussing clips which we expect you to already be familiar with. So do make sure that any of that kind of work that we've set you, you've done before coming to class. And in case it's not clear from some of the things we've already been saying, any seminar in which you're asked to discuss that week's essential reading, listening, or viewing should not be the first time you have encountered them. If you want to get the most out of the module, do come to class prepared. Another thing that we will be asking you to do each week is to contribute towards something we're calling the professional skills assessment. And this is an assessment that counts towards the final mark of the module. It's a 10% component of the module. And the professional skills assessment consists of weekly tasks which you will be set by us and which must be completed ahead of each seminar. So you'll use the notes from the task to engage with the seminar discussion. And completion of the tasks will be in addition to any set reading, listening, or viewing that you're asked to do in preparation for each seminar. So for example, ahead of a particular seminar, you might be asked to read a journal article or a chapter from a book, and that might be the essential reading. But in addition to that, you will also be set a task which we expect you to do before that seminar. You'll submit the results of the task to Canvas each week. So the task doubles up. It both provides you with notes for the discussion in the seminar so that you feel prepared to engage in the seminar, but it also provides you with a set of notes that you can then submit to Canvas, and that will count towards the final assessment. So those submissions to Canvas will count towards the final mark of the module. And that component assesses your continual engagement with the module materials. So that's a little bit different to an end of semester assessment where we finish the teaching, you go away and you write an essay or you do a creative project or something like that. In this case, with the professional skills assessment, you are continually working towards that because it also counts towards the weekly discussions.
So Richard has talked about the ongoing assessment. There are overall for the module 3 assessments, including that. There's a summative assessment, i.e. It counts towards the final grade for the module, which will be submitted at the end of semester 1 and counts for 40% of your overall grade for the module. That's a 2,000 word essay based on the material that we have covered in semester 1, and over the course of the semester we will put up a series of set questions, and you will choose one of those to answer. The semester 2 main summative assessment counts for 50% of the overall module grade, which is, you have a little more choice here. That is either an essay of up to 2,500 words, between 2,000 and 2,500 words, based on the semester 2 materials. We will provide a series of set questions as we have in semester 1, or you can choose your own question there. We'll provide the set questions over the course of semester 2. If you want to choose your own question, that's okay. It must be approved by the module teaching staff. So there'll be an earlier deadline for your own question, should you just decide to write one to be approved. The other option for semester two's 50% summative assessment is a creative response to the topics, the readings, and the examples of the modules as a whole. We'll provide more detailed briefing on this as we go through the module. But things in the past that people have created have been things like a podcast or an audio essay, mashups, DJ sets, and so forth. And as I say, we'll brief more fully on these as we approach that assessment. The main thing to really say here is that it's the creative response that's being assessed there, not the technologically advanced nature of it. So it's not this module isn't about technical training and using those softwares. It's about how you have thought about the topics and responded intellectually and creatively to them. And then finally, as Richard has discussed on the previous slide, there's the ongoing professional skills assessment of of tasks for the weekly seminars to be submitted via Canvas. And again, we'll provide feedback for these as we go. It's just to note, as we did in the feedback and assessment briefing, which you can see on the ICMA's community page, there are different types of feedback. So for your essays, you will get obviously written feedback, but feedback also occurs throughout the module rather than just at these set milestone points. Feedback comes through responses to questions and comments in seminars, email queries that you might have, and in any threaded discussions that might emerge over Canvas.
Yes, and feedback can also come from your fellow students as well as from the teaching staff on the module as well. So you are, in that sense, getting feedback when you are actively engaging in a seminar. So just to round off this introduction to the lecture then, hopefully this has covered the main information that you need to understand what the module's about, how we're putting it together, what's expected of you, both weekly, but also in terms of assessments as well. And let's just think about what's coming up. So things that you'll need to think about for the week commencing 26th of October, we'll have our first lecture materials topic that week. And the topic is popular music and as media. So you'll need to work through all the lecture materials that are provided on Canvas for that topic. There is a set text for that week as well, Fabian Holt's essay on music festival video, and that will be available to you ahead of the seminar, so make sure you get on and read that as soon as you can. Task 1 will also be available. So that when I say task 1, I'm referring to the first component of the professional skills assessment. And there will be a brief on Canvas that explains what you need to do for task 1. And you need to do that and the set reading and work through the lecture materials before coming to the Tuesday seminars that week. Other things you need to do, you need to make sure when your seminar is, so have a look on your timetable, make sure you can see a seminar for popular music and media, MUS2085 on your timetable. If you can't, get in touch with us. On Canvas and in the module handbook, you will find the Zoom ID for the seminars as well. So make sure you know you have that information to hand prior to accessing the seminar. And that covers the information that we want to go through in the introductory video. So it just remains for all of us to say goodbye, and we look forward to working with you. We look forward to seeing you through the seminars, reading your ideas through the continual weekly tasks, and we very much hope you enjoy and engage with the module.
Thanks, Richard. Yes, we're looking forward to working with you all over the coming year.
Looking forward to working with you over the next month.